This next pattern, it's a classic American streamer called the Shushan Postmaster. It's a Lew Oatman pattern from the 1930s and 40s. Pretty fun one to tie. Not terribly difficult, though there are a couple tricky spots in it. Anyway, I'll put the recipe in the description and explain all the materials as we go. First off, we've got the number 6 streamer hook. Typical streamer, 3x long. I'm going to lay a base of 70 denier, 8/0 black UTC. Just take it all the way back to about the barb, the start of the bend back here, before we tie in the tail. Now the tail on this thing is just a slip of mottled turkey quill. See that right there? Point down, and then it looks a little bit better when it flares up when you do this right here. So just lay that, let's see, right there looks fine. A little pinch wrap before we pull it tight. Couple wraps, see if that's where you want it. Yeah, that looks fine to me. So a couple more to lock it in. Now let's snip the butt ends off right here. Lay that flat. Now for the rib, this thing, it's just medium silver gold tinsel or mylar or whatever you want. I like the gold side showing, looks good on the yellow body. So tie it with the gold side down, the silver showing, and that way when you flip it over and start wrapping it, you'll see the gold. So catch this in all the way back to the start of the tail. So we can try and cover all the black when we start wrapping our yellow floss. So let's get this back up here, up to the front. Now, just some standard yellow floss. This stuff's a little bit messy to work with here, so sometimes you have to lick your finger and pull it tight. Catch it in up here in the front. Let's see. I'm not going to pull it back, I'm going to trim it. Sometimes that works just a little bit better. Okay. So now if you have a rotary vise, this is usually pretty effective for doing it, but it's not always that easy. I'm going to hang my thread out of the way. Yeah, let's try the rotary function. Sometimes it's a little easier just to spin it by hand, but let's go with this for. So this is probably quicker, but it's easier to, I think, control the material when you're wrapping it just manually. And with this, you've got to be careful, especially back here around the barb. If you nick this floss, it's going to just be a big mess on you. So as you're spinning it around here, be careful with the barb. Try to get it back. This is about the only tricky part. Get it all the way back here. Cover up as much of that black thread as you can. Doesn't really matter, but I just think it looks a little bit better. Now you can come it up with your second layer. If you need to tighten up this thread, give it a clockwise spin, I guess. But if you're trying to just lay it down and get the color on it, you can let it widen out a little bit. And my goal in wrapping these bodies is just cover all the black thread. You might see a little bit through, and when this thing gets wet, it is a little bit translucent, but I think it fishes just fine like that. So let's take this back all the way back up here. Okay, that's flat enough body. It's not perfect, but wrapping that gold tinsel rib will hide any of these, or it'll hide most of these imperfections. So just a couple wraps, front of it, behind it, get this locked in right here. Now wrap the tinsel. First wrap probably right in front of it. I don't want to push my tail down too much though. I think that looks fine right there. It's covering any of that black thread at the very end of the tail. Now with the number 6 here, you probably get 6 or 7 turns. I usually stop about halfway, make sure my spacing is even enough. That one might be a little close right there. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it's just a fishing fly. Not going to win any awards with this thing, but it's a good fly for fishing, which is why we tie them. So lock this in up here before you trim it off. Now, the next component is the throat, a red throat. Now, Oatman tied it with dyed red duck feathers, duck quills, and I've tied a few like that. They look fine, but I think I like marabou. Just red marabou gives a little bit more action, and I think it looks better. So just pull down a little bit of marabou. You don't need to trim it. If you have any long ones, just break them off right there. So a little tuft, about that big. You don't want it to go as far back as the point. It's just a small little patch of color here. So let's see. Do a little pinch wrap right there before we lock it in too tight. That might be a little longer than I want. So let's pull that a little shorter here. Okay, I think that's going to look good right there. Get it situated on the top, do a couple of wraps to lock it in, then you can trim the butt ends of this thing off. Let's see, you know what? I think that's a little bit farther back than I want, so I'm gonna move this just a little bit forward. And since this is being a pain in the butt, I'm going to go ahead and trim that off, so I'm working with just a little bit less. Okay, hang the thread from where you want it to be tied in, and then let's do a little pinch wrap right there. I think number 2 will do. That's just a little long still. Okay, yeah, I like that right there. So shorten that up, couple of 2 or 3 wraps to lock it in before you trim off the butt ends of this marabou. Now we lock this in right here. Okay, that's locked. It's about an eye length, a little bit more than an eye length back. Now the next component of this thing is the hair wing. So it is red squirrel tail. Doesn't take much. If you make the wing too bulky, this stuff is real slippery and it'll start spinning around on you. So cut off a piece maybe that thick. Pull out some of the scruffs. Now you can stack it if you want, but it's even enough for me. And then I typically don't stack these. If I was tying it with regular squirrel, I probably would, because those fibers are much longer. Now you want it about halfway, the wing to go about halfway through the tail. So I like that distance right there. Now let's, one trick for this is put a loose wrap just around the wing, around the hair, and then a little bit tighter, and now you can do your pinch wrap. It will keep it from spinning around on you. You don't want it to be sticking up that high, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and start bringing that down a little bit right there. That's too far down. Let's see here. Okay, hold it where we want. Start wrapping the head right there. A little too low. Now what you can do if you get it too low, you can raise this up and run some of the thread underneath it to kind of prop it back up. I think it's fine right there. I'm not going to worry about it. So just do what you can to trim all these off. Most of them will be able to bury in the head, so it's going to look a little messy until we start wrapping the head. So you can see some of these spun around on me and they're on the bottom. It makes it a little bit harder to clean up. But as long as you can get your tippet through the eye, you'll be all right. So yeah, that's a little bit sloppy up there on the front, but let's see if we can bury some of that stuff in here. You can get a good bit of it in there. Still got a few underneath the bottom, just for the heck. See if we can trim those up. It's okay looking there. We're not done just yet. We're going to put some eyes on it, some jungle cock eyes for the cheek. So just medium size for what fly you're tying, like this, about right there. I like this one on it. You'll have a little bit of that white part of the eye showing, but not that much. So I don't usually have them going too far back. Angled up at about the same way the wing is. So 2 or 3 of those probably get you good right there. And then the same thing on my side here. Look at the top to get the lengths about the same. And then pinch that in. 1, 2, let's see. Okay, I like that right there. Now lock these in. These are just a little bit slippery too, but they're not too bad. So just trim these stems off. And then finish wrapping up your head, cleaning it up. Might need to trim a little bit of these feathers. That squirrel tail's going all over the place, but it'll do that on you. If you're going to use some head cement, let's see, a 4 or 5 turn whip finish is probably going to be fine, which I will use some head cement. Let's go ahead and whip finish this guy. And now's the time to clean up anything if you want. I'm going to leave it about like that. I think that looks fine. Standard head cement or quick dry UV resin. I've been using that here lately. I think it looks nice and dries just a little bit quicker. Small drops all it takes. Just take your bodkin, wrap it around, cover all your thread wraps with it. And then put your torch on it. About 10 or 15 seconds is pretty much all it takes. Quick spin. And there you have it. Classic American streamer, Lew Oatman pattern, the Shushan Postmaster. So that's all. Thanks for watching.